Back again with another YouTube video. It's your boy Orion G. Today we're gonna react to 10 wrestling gimmicks that would have failed in anyone else's hands. Let's get right into the video.
No professional wrestling gimmick is a sure thing, but it's fair to say that certain ones would be colossal failures if they were given to the wrong performer. We've seen enough duds over the years to know that it doesn't take much for a rotten gimmick to sink a wrestler's career, where others have taken on gimmicks that, on the surface, looked like losers, only for them to turn out against all odds to be their ticket to fame and fortune. I'm Adam Pachisi from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 wrestling gimmicks that would have failed in anyone else's hands. Join us.
But first, I would like to have a funny tape they all say protect during this video to let board means that services where I am lying ran in an invalid back calm for Chimble.
Number 8 was just another talented as either Shane Helm. Number 10, the Hurricane.
The Hurricane coming through. Let's see.
As either Shane Helms or Gregory Helms, the North Carolina native was just another talented cruiserweight in a pair of trunks and boots. And that's all well and good, but there were plenty of those around and they didn't tend to last too long in WWE. What did last in WWE was the Hurricane, the super fun superhero alter ego of Helms. Debuting during the Invasion storyline, the Hurricane became an instant hit with the fans thanks to Helms committing to the bit and not being afraid to make himself look like a fool when the situation called for it. But the Hurricane was no mere comedy jobber, and Helms, who was a genuine comic book buff, parlayed his popularity into runs as Cruiserweight and World Tag Team Champ, not to mention a brief program with The Rock in the run-up to WrestleMania 19, which saw him score an elusive victory against the Great One. Helms ditched the mask and cape in order to have a run as a heel under his own name, but fans wanted the Hurricane and it was celebrated when he brought it back. What could have been a short-lived one-note gimmick turned into something that Helms and only Helms was able to do for 20 years. Number 9, the Boogeyman. Alright, hear me out. Marty Wright, who was kicked off the 4th season of WWE Tough Enough after lying about his age, was not a very good professional wrestler. However, he had the look and a certain kind of charisma that compelled
The Boogeyman. Let me just continue the video.
Company to sign him to a developmental deal anyway. And it was while in OVW that Wright created the Boogeyman character, and what a character it was. Completely ludicrous on the face of things, of course. I mean, an evil monster man with a big red face who eats worms and smashes clocks over his head. It just shouldn't have worked, but it did, because Marty Wright—
Did he even get like a mid-card title? Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure.
Was so into portraying the Boogeyman and went above and beyond in his bid to entertain the masses. The Boogeyman character, which could have easily been the crappiest of all wrestle crap, became so popular that he still makes occasional appearances to this day, some 2 decades after his initial debut. And just as long as he doesn't have to actually wrestle, that's fine with me. Number 8, Orange Cassidy. I like to consider myself pretty damn good at doing nothing. In fact, if you tasked me with doing sod all for the rest of my life, I reckon I'd be able to accomplish that, no questions asked. But as good as I am at putting in little to no effort, I am not in the same league as Orange Cassidy. Freshly Squeezed has become a cult hero by letting fans know that he really doesn't give a toss, to the point where it's a novelty when he actually properly—
I don't really watch much AEW. So I'm gonna skip this. I have seen him do that finisher before. I think he like jumps off the rope with his hands behind his back and jumps. I don't know if that's NXT or if that's AEW. I hope I'm not confused.
Number 7, Doink the Clown. Nobody would begrudge you for assuming that the Doink the Clown gimmick came directly from the demented brain of Vince McMahon.
I remember when he came back in like what, 2011, 2012. It was like Raw 1000, and he lost against Heath Slater. I remember that.
But that's not actually the case. It was really Road Warrior Hawk who was responsible for Doink, as he saw the curmudgeonly Matt Bourne, looking particularly surly that day, sitting in the WWE locker room and smoking a cigarette, compelling him to blurt out, "Krusty the Clown!" Hawk took the pitch to Vince, and all of a sudden, Bourne had a new gimmick, a gimmick that very quickly became a cult hit with WWE fans. Many men have played Doink since Bourne's initial run as the character, but nobody has done it as well, and I would argue that the only reason the clown has been able to be brought back so often is down to how successful it was when Bourne was under the paint. Yes, anyone can slap on a clown suit and some makeup and pull pranks, but Bourne was Doink and had a certain uneasy quality that just made it work. In the hands of anyone else on the roster in the early 90s, they would just look like a bozo, or possibly the bozo. Number 6, Razor Ramon. A big white guy trying to talk like a Cuban while doing his best Tony Montana impression could have been a career killer if it was being done by anyone besides Scott Hall.
Razor Ramon, man. I was just wearing his hoodie. I actually had the Razor Ramon hoodie. I catch it. It's the yellow hoodie I usually wear. That's Razor Ramon. I used to have a purple hoodie. If y'all go check that out. It was like a Razor Ramon unboxing video I did like 3, 4, 5 years ago. I think it was like 2, 3 years ago, not 5. But yeah, let's continue. Razor Ramon, rest in peace, legend, man, legend.
The bad guy avoided a go-nowhere G.I. Joe gimmick by launching into his Scarface routine during a meeting with Vince McMahon, who had never seen the seminal 1980s gangster film. The thing about Hall is that besides being a great worker with an excellent look, the man was just cool, something which cannot be taught. And I'm speaking from experience here. 8 grand down the drain at Cool University, and here I am, still an absolute bellend. Sorry, yeah, Hall was cool, and he had the requisite machismo to pull the character off without anyone crapping on it for being derivative or insensitive. And if you want proof that Scott Hall was the only person who could pull the Razor Ramon gimmick off, need I remind you that Vince McMahon literally gave the gimmick to Rick Bogner after Hall jumped ship to WCW, and it died a miserable death. Number 5, Goldust. Dustin Runnels was a tobacco-chewing, country music-listening good old boy from the South who wrestled as a rugged babyface for WCW. But when he needed a job and WWE offered him the chance to play a new androgynous character, he accepted without hesitation, despite not knowing what the word androgynous actually meant. Still, he accepted the challenge of playing something so wildly different from his own personality.
Goldust, he had a really good, solid career. Good mid-card wrestler, tag team champion, IC title. Good gimmick overall, you know.
And while it took him a few months to get to grips with Goldust, he took the ball and ran with it, creating one of the most unique personas in wrestling history. Runnels threw himself into the role, saying and doing things on television that many would have balked at in order to get the character over. And you know what? It worked, as the Bizarre One remained an over-commodity for an age, regardless of how he changed across more than 2 decades and various runs. There's probably close to 0 chance that the Goldust character, if given to literally anyone else, would have been half as effective or had anywhere near the longevity it did with Big Dustin. He made sure we remembered the name. Number 4, Timeless Tony Storm. When Tony Storm emerged in AEW,
I don't watch AEW. I don't really know too much about AEW. Oh, I'm skipping it. No. Mick Foley. Mankind.
wouldn't have been half as good with anyone other than Tony Storm doing a gimmick that is proving to be, well, timeless. Number 3, Mankind. Vince McMahon only agreed to hire Mick Foley after much pestering from Foley fan Jim Ross on the condition that they cover up his face with a mask. Brought in as a monster to feud with The Undertaker, Foley was initially given the name Mason the Mutilator before they mercifully settled on Mankind instead. Foley wasn't exactly thrilled with the pitch, as he had enjoyed so much success in WCW and internationally as Cactus Jack, but he endeavored to give it a try and put everything he had into ensuring Mankind did not flop. Had a less talented wrestler been the man in the leather mask, it really may well have, but Foley properly gave it everything he had, and in an era where plenty of cartoonish characters failed, his thrived. Not only was Foley so giving physically, willing to take whatever bumps he felt necessary to get the match, his opponent, and himself over, he was also willing to show a lot of vulnerability in promos and segments. It was this vulnerability and Foley's inherent likability that allowed him to become a beloved babyface and multiple multi-time world champion just a couple of years after his debut. Number 2, Bray Wyatt. Wyndham
Rest in peace, man. Oh man, this was what, Husky Harris, NXT 2010, Nexus.
Rotunda, like so many who graduated from WWE's developmental system at the time, had a rough go of it during his first run on the main roster. Nexus member Husky Harris didn't exactly light anyone's world on fire, and getting sent back to developmental turned out to be a big blessing for the second-generation wrestler. Not too long after, he introduced us to Bray Wyatt, the swamp-dwelling cult leader of your nightmares. Though Bray and the rest of the Wyatt family were over the top in some respects, the reason he and they caught on so quickly and strongly is because, as Bray himself pointed out, he was being real to himself. No, he wasn't a child.
And most of his promos were him. You know what I mean? They were organic. They weren't artificial. I ain't gonna say that, but they were organic. They were literally him speaking. It wasn't really a script, it was him.
Manson-like messiah hell-bent on doing evil things IRL, but a lot of what the Bray Wyatt character was saying was true to what Wyndham Rotunda believed and felt. His fearlessness when throwing himself into a character also ensured that his outlandish fiend persona, polarizing as it was, didn't completely torpedo his WWE career the way it probably would have done to just about anyone else but the incredibly talented and creative Wyndham Rotunda. Number 1, The Undertaker. The way Mark Calloway tells it, one day after meeting with Vince McMahon, he received a phone call from WWE's then owner who simply asked, "Hello, is this The Undertaker?" Calloway, not entirely grasping what was going on, answered in the affirmative, and the rest is history. The gimmick of a zombie mortician who moved at the speed of a glacier and barely showed any emotion would have doubtless sank and fast had it been entrusted to anybody else. But Calloway was able to make The Undertaker one of the most popular and enduring characters in wrestling history, thanks in large part to his unwavering dedication to protecting the gimmick no matter what. That meant staying in character at all times and refusing to drop the act in public, whether he was eating at a restaurant or traveling to the arena.
I did hear that he stayed to his gimmick, you know, even if he was out of character, you know, not even wrestling, he still kept the persona.
This commitment to upholding kayfabe set the dead man apart and helped Calloway maintain his aura of mystique. It also helped that he was a big athletic bastard who loved the business and was
Alright, that was 10 wrestling gimmicks that would have failed in anyone else's hands. Tell me what you guys want to see next in the comments down below. I got more videos coming. Stay tuned. Subscribe, like, comment. Yeah, Uriah out.